First off, tipping our cap to Point Park. They came in here 5-0 and have been playing really good basketball and averaging 97 points a game and, flying around. And they have a good team. I mean, Kevin Reynolds does a great job with his teams, for a long, long time, at Point Park and other places. And so, credit them with the way that they played and the effort they showed. Obviously, we were inconsistent, mostly offensively, and I think we allowed our offense to dictate our defense at times, and that's a recipe for disaster, and we averted disaster tonight.
Coach, your defensive performance was significantly better in the second half. You held them to 27.6 as opposed to 34% in the first half. What was different for you guys?
I mean, I think we picked up our level of intensity, right? I think we jumped out 9-2, and all of a sudden I think everyone just thought, oh, this is just gonna, we're just gonna, show up for the next 34 minutes of this game or 36 minutes of this game, and just stay like this. And again, credit Coach Reynolds and his team. They came in here to win the game, and they were without their leading scorer. So I'm sure they're going back saying, if they had their full team, they probably would have won the game, right? And we talked a lot today and shoot around about preparing yourself properly, and always respecting every opponent you play, respecting the game with the effort that you give it. And I thought we kind of went that first rotation to our bench, and I thought our energy level kind of dropped off, and it took us a while to really find it again. And I was hoping that we'd be able to get some valuable experience for some of those guys in the rotation, and the game didn't dictate that.
Andy, for a lot of the game, rebounding was pretty neck and neck. You guys finished plus 16 on the boards. Just how key was it down the stretch, just protecting both the offensive and defensive glass?
Oh, it's huge. I think when you looked at, I think I have the first half stats here. That's the final stats. But I think it was huge. I mean, the possession where we got the multiple shots at the rim, and Jackson finally made the three. It kind of really felt like that was a turning point for us, and that was all based off a lot of the efforts of Marquise and Steph. Steph's ability to get that offensive rebound on the free throw was a huge play. So the rebounding certainly was really impactful for us. Obviously only having a 2 rebound advantage in the first half. We got 9 offensive rebounds in the second half, and I think that sometimes that's what happens in those games, is that some of the size and the strength and the multiple bodies can wear you down. And even though their front court guys, Jawar and Fisher have great size and length, over a 40-minute span, I mean, Marquise and Steph are 2 hard guys to deal with on the backboards. And I think, eventually, we were able to kind of create some separation with their getting on the glass and giving us extra opportunities, because we certainly needed them.
Is there anything you can share status-wise on Corbin and Williams?
Yeah, I mean, the hope is that they're back really soon. I think, depending on, every game is certainly very important. But depending on time of year, you make some different decisions based on, pushing and not pushing. So I think it was just trying to be as smart as we could be with both those guys.
What did you see differently offensively from the first half to the second half, especially down the stretch there in that second half of play?
I thought we started to attack the rim a little bit. Obviously, we got the ball into the paint. I mean, I don't even want to think about the number of layups that we missed during the course of the game tonight. Certainly a focus as far as was trying to get the ball into the paint. I thought in the first half that we really kind of settled, one pass jump shot. Well, guess what, guys? That's what they want you to do. Sometimes there's a reason you're open. And their game plan was obviously to have us make perimeter shots, and you have to be a little bit more intelligent about how you attack. And, the poise you have and the patience you have to be able to execute your offense, multiple actions. And I thought in the second half we did a better job of that. And that allowed us to get some real good opportunities at the rim or even, in the high paint area.
It's year 2 for your sophomores. Thought Steph played pretty sharp offensively against Xavier, and then Steph and TJ both with double-digit points tonight. How important is their progression heading into this year?
It's huge. I mean, it's absolutely huge. And I think someone told me once that sophomore means wise fool. And I think that, sometimes as a sophomore you think you have it figured out. And Steph obviously was a starter for us last year. TJ's worked really hard to kind of increase his role in the rotation. But I didn't think either of them were overly prepared to start the game. I thought Steph kind of drove the ball in a bad spot and lost it. And And that was kind of the beginnings of just like poor possessions instead of like, let's just continue to be sharp and execute. And so I think it's, they're learning. TJ played 32 minutes, took 17 shots. That's, last year there was probably a 4 or 5 game stretch that he took 17 shots in. So are you building yourself every day for that kind of role and those kind of responsibilities if they're thrust upon you? And, they both have to be really, really good for us to become the team we want to be.
Without Josh and Justice, you guys went into your depth players. Is there a little bit of concern about lack of depth for your team?
Well, I think no, because I think if you add 2 guys that are in the front of your rotation, that kind of changes the whole complex of the way the rest of the rotation works, right? But I do think we need more contributions from more, and that's something that we've been battling about a little bit in our practice settings. We try to mix our teams up often, but there's times where it's kind of the group that started on Monday night at Xavier, and maybe the next group off the bench, and there is maybe not the same level of execution or intensity. And to me, that's stuff you can control, right? Like not everybody is going to be able to have certain athletic gifts or strength or certain skills, but understanding offense and defense, understanding how to execute your offense and defense, to me that's like a non-negotiable across the board. And I think we're continuing to kind of talk about those things with some of those guys that are coming off the bench, and we're still getting some errors. And the old fight of players want to get put into the game so that they can show you what they can do, and coaches say, well, show me in practice and I'll play you in the game, right? Some of the stuff that we see in our practice settings is some of the stuff we're still seeing in the game, and that's where the frustration comes in. It's like we're coaching this on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then on Thursday we're seeing the same exact behavior, and then as they're coming out, they're going like, what do you mean? Well, that's really important that you rotate properly or you communicate properly, right? In the first half, we had I had an exchange with Alvaro where he didn't call the ball screen, and they got all the way downhill, and we took him out. I said, Alfredo's saying you're not calling the ball screen. He's like, he's right. Well, that's like a terrible answer. Like, I mean, I appreciate your honesty and that you're admitting it, but like, this is important. It's important, and he's a freshman and he's got a crazy high ceiling, but he's got to be more consistent in his work habits on a daily basis. And sometimes it's not just spending the 2 hours that we're together in practice. Like if you need extra help in math, you go to the tutors, right? You don't just go to the 3 class sessions you have that week and think you're going to ace the class, right? You might need a little bit extra. Hey, if you can just show up the 50 minutes 3 times a week and ace the class, do it. But if you're struggling to understand what's going on, you might have to go to the tutors, right? And that's some of the stuff that we've been talking to guys about, is like, how are you utilizing your resources, whether it's watching film, being with coaches, doing all the things necessary to prepare yourself to help the team the best that you can.
Building off of that, with Justice and Josh not in there, a lot of guys got more playing time than they usually would. Were you content with some of those players and their minutes, and who really impressed you with stepping up?
Impressed would be a strong statement. I thought that, there were some good moments. I was happy to see Jackson kind of attack the basket a little bit. That's something we've been talking to him about. It's amazing when you get into one of those environments, you get guys' attention a little bit, right? And so, there might be times where, you guys aren't always understanding of like, hey, this is really important. And I thought as we went down the stretch of the game, TJ, Steph, Marquise, Jackson, those guys certainly started to look to each other and look to the coaches and say, like, how do we figure this out, right? Like, we're down 10 points in the second half. This is not where we want to be, and we've got to figure out how to work our way back. And we had some great energy on the bench from Ben Kristoviak and Tanner O'Grady, and guys that were like in huddles, like, come on, we got this, let's get this next possession, let's get this next round, right? And start to try to get some of that positive energy going. And I think that was important in us kind of turning the tide.
Coach, what areas of the game do you think the team needs to improve on before you guys head down to Towson?
A lot. Obviously, execution on both sides for sure. Understanding of just the importance of every possession. Something we talk about all the time, and I don't think we really valued that tonight. And I think that was why the game ended up kind of playing out the way that it did. It's just so hard to flip that switch and hope that you're going to be able to just pull it out. And I think, so, you know, figuring out how we can prepare everybody better to be more locked in is step one. And then I think once they do that part and we help them do that part, you know, then we've got to really drill down on some of those finer details that really can make or break possessions or games.
Coach, Jameson Smith shot 47% from the floor, finished with 19 that led them. What was he doing very well tonight?
A little bit of everything, really. You know, he does a great job of getting out. They all do a great job, but he does a very good job of getting out in transition. He did a very good job in their ball screen game of really not letting our guards get back in front. You know, he did a good job of kind of keeping that angle, being able to get into the paint, being able to get downhill. He's got a nice little step back to him. And so he was able to score it really at 3 levels, you know, made threes, got to the rim, and then showed a nice little mid-range game. And, you know, I think when you have guys that are doing that, you know, those guys are hard to guard. You know, you're chasing to try to get back in front, and then all of a sudden he kind of leans back and shoots a little 15-footer that he made on a couple of occasions. Gets out in transition where he gets lost and gets a 3 in front of our bench, right? Like that's what good scorers and good players do. They find their opportunities and they take advantage of them.
Marquise Hastings had 20 points, 14 rebounds tonight, second double-double of the year. What have you just seen out of his play and his physicality? Obviously, you know what kind of player he was heading in and coming into the program, but what have you just seen out of him and just his ability to work down low?
Yeah, I mean, he's relentless on the glass. I mean, there's times where he comes out of nowhere and gets his hands on a ball or keeps a ball alive. That is just, you know, really, really impressive. You know, and so that activity is hard to match, right? You know, we're still challenging him to be, you know, a little more communicative and a little more detailed at times. But he can just be disruptive on both sides with the way that he can attack the rim, get on the glass. You know, he had that one steal today in the second half where he came almost all the way across the court and knocked the ball out of the dribbler's hands. I mean, really kind of just an incredible instinctual play that he made. And like I said, him and Steph together, you know, they present some problems for people on the glass.